This is the case of Mackenzie Shirilla. It was just before sunrise on July 31st, 2022, that hour when the world is still dead asleep. When the streets are empty and a deep quiet hangs over the little towns across America. We've all been there in that stillness. It's a peaceful kind of quiet, but it can feel heavy too, like you're free, but also kind of suffocated by being alone. In the quiet suburb of Strongsville, Ohio, that silence was ripped apart by the squeal of tires followed by a crushing boom. Just like that, the calm of the early morning was gone. Around 5:30 that morning, a car going more than 90 miles an hour slammed into a wall, with a security camera catching the seconds before it hit. Hard to believe, but nobody around even noticed the crash. That meant the wreck and everyone trapped inside got no help for the next 45 minutes. When cops and EMTs finally got to the scene, they saw total destruction. A 2018 Toyota Camry had plowed through a business sign and smashed head-on into the brick wall of an industrial building at a speed that was almost impossible to believe. The car was so torn up you could barely tell what it was. I've had to blur this footage a lot. But on one officer's body cam, you can hear him whisper, "It split in two." Next to him, another responder, a guy who'd seen decades of bad wrecks, said it was the worst crash he'd ever laid eyes on. Inside that twisted metal were 3 young people. In the driver's seat was 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla, who was somehow still breathing, just barely holding on. Next to her in the passenger seat was her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, who was 20, and in the back was their close friend, Davian Flanagan, who was 19. Tragically, both Dominic and Davian were pronounced dead right there on the scene. Like I said, by the time help arrived, they'd been trapped for close to 45 minutes. Any chance they had to survive was probably lost in that time. After they cut her out of the wreck, Mackenzie was flown to the hospital by helicopter. They said she was barely alive, with multiple broken bones and several serious injuries. To everyone who saw it, it looked like a horrible, tragic accident. To them, it was another sad reminder of how fragile life is when you're behind the wheel. But as investigators started looking closer, they realized this was no accident at all. To really get how serious that morning was, we first got to know who these 3 people were. 'Cause like you probably know by now, the devil's in the details. So let's start with Dominic Russo. At just 20 years old, Dominic was the kind of guy people looked up to. He'd just graduated high school, was really sharp, and had already started a few small businesses. That even included a clothing line he ran right out of his bedroom, the kind of startup story that usually leads to success for someone who works hard. He wasn't a kid who went looking for trouble. People said he was focused, mature, loved his family, and was a really hard worker. And of course, he was Mackenzie's boyfriend, which is a huge part of this story. Turns out the 2 of them had been together for a long time. Honestly, probably longer than was good for either of them, but we'll get to that. In the back seat was Davian Flanagan, a close friend to both Mackenzie and Dominic. Davian was adopted when he was 8 after being taken from a bad home situation. He'd grown up to be a warm, happy guy who knew how to make anyone laugh. He'd been an athlete in high school, full of energy and always smiling. He had good dreams too. Davian wanted to be a barber so he could have his own little piece of the community. He was the type who wanted to build a settled life. But now, tragically, he was gone too. And then there was the driver, Mackenzie. Mackenzie Shirilla was the only one who lived through the crash that night. And as it turns out, there was a lot more to her story than you'd think. Born in 2004, she grew up in Strongsville with her parents, Natalie and Steve. She just graduated high school that summer, and you could say she was already a bit of a small-town celebrity, at least in her own head. Honestly, I think everyone outside her circle just saw her as another person. Classmates said she was outgoing and confident. And let's be real, she loved being the center of attention. Turns out Mackenzie even idolized Regina George from Mean Girls. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Regina is this manipulative queen bee who thinks she runs the whole school. And yeah, that was kind of Mackenzie's thing too. Outside of school, Mackenzie was trying to build a following on TikTok, posting stuff like her outfits, her daily routine, and highlights from her relationship. It's the kind of stuff you yourself might care about, but to everyone else, well, they really don't give a underscore. To be fair, she did end up getting a decent number of views. As her audience grew, brands started sending her clothes and free stuff. For a 17-year-old, that's a huge ego boost. And Mackenzie clearly ate it up, though she probably didn't need it, given how arrogant she was. I gotta say, while her online life looked like a perfect teen dream, her real life was anything but that. Looking deeper into their relationship, Mackenzie and Dominic had been dating since early in high school, about 4 years, but the whole thing was always on again, off again. They'd break up and then get back together all the time. And what started out innocent quickly turned into something way more volatile. Dominic's family loved Mackenzie at first, and even saw her as part of the family. The couple even lived together for a while, which is a teenage fantasy that, no surprise, doesn't usually end well. Behind closed doors, things between them were slowly falling apart. By 2022, their relationship had turned sour. They were arguing constantly, breaking up all the time, and Mackenzie had started making horrible threats toward him. Dominic's family said that in the months before he died, he often looked miserable, and Mackenzie had become more and more possessive. She always wanted to know where Dominic was, who he was with, and why he wasn't texting her back right away. According to several of her friends, she could be really scary when she didn't get her way. Just a few weeks before the crash, he'd even called his mom in a panic during one of their fights. When a family friend went to pick Dominic up, Mackenzie yelled that she was going to wreck his car. A second later, she lunged across the seat and punched him in the face multiple times. Another video, recorded around the same time, showed Mackenzie threatening to break into Dominic's house. And again, like I always say in these videos, while all this was happening, her social media showed a totally different side of her and their relationship. To her followers, she was still this sweet, pretty girl with a perfect boyfriend and a glamorous life. But to the people closest to her, they could all see Mackenzie was a spiraling, jealous, volatile, and increasingly dangerous woman-child. Just listen to how she talks to him here.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You know it. That's exactly what I mean. You don't even know exactly what I mean. You're gonna come open this door right now, or there's gonna be a serious fucking problem. I can't. No, like you can't keep threatening. You can't keep making all these threats. Like I can't. You hit me kicking me out of a place that you say is my home. Cause I didn't kick you out. You took all your shit and dipped. You said we were done. I did not say we are done. Dom? Okay, ready? I'm gonna count to 10. The door's gonna open. Thanks. You're gonna open the door and stop hiding behind the door like a little fucking bitch.
It's obvious from this video, Mackenzie was possessive, aggressive, and super controlling with Dominic. The whole time she's threatening to break his stuff if he doesn't let her into his own house, and unfortunately, there are a bunch of recordings just like this one. The fact this video even exists tells us Dominic knew things were bad enough to record it. It shows how unsafe and scared he felt. The warning signs were all over her social media too, if you knew where to look. She was basically a walking red flag, to the point where any normal person like you or me would watch her videos and think she is on a one-way trip to disaster. It was clear Mackenzie was a spiraling, jealous, volatile, and increasingly dangerous woman-child. But even with all those warnings, no adults stepped in. And unfortunately, like we all know now, she'd eventually cross a line there was no coming back from, because days later both Dominic and Davian were dead. The body cam footage you're about to see, from officers going to Dominic Russo's family home, shows the moment his mother realized her son was never coming home. I gotta stress, this is some of the most upsetting footage I've ever seen.
Unfortunately, there was an accident, okay, involving Mackenzie, Davian, and who we believe is Dominic, is the third person.
An accident?
A car accident. Okay.
Where?
Last night.
Wait.
Just relax. Just hold on. Just stay seated. Just stay seated. Just hold on. Just listen.
Yes,
Listen.
take a deep breath.
Christine, look at me. Take a deep breath.
Yeah, just take
a deep breath. Okay. Right now, all we know is that the driver, who is Mackenzie, is at Metro.
Right.
Okay.
Hold on. So yeah,
just stay seated, please.
Take your time.
Please, just relax. Take a deep breath.
That's
Take
right.
a deep breath.
That's okay. You're good. Take your time.
Take a deep breath. Okay. Is anybody else home here with you right now?
But Christopher, but he's sleeping. Angela's in Florida. Wait, where's Mackenzie's mom?
Okay. They're down at Metro right now. Okay. The other two passengers, like I said, was Davian and who we believe is Dominic, okay? From what Mackenzie told us.
Okay.
Both Davian and Dominic are deceased.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Christine.
Just sit down.
Oh, God.
Just sit down.
Oh, my God.
Krista's gonna come outside.
That's okay.
Christine.
Yes, just take a deep breath. It's okay.
Oh my God!
No.
Christine,
Just it'd be
Christine.
best.
Please.
No, I can't be. What did she do?
Christine.
What did she do?
It would be best.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Is there somebody else we can call for you?
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Is there somebody we can call for you? Okay, wait. Okay.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
As you already know, Mackenzie was the only one to survive the crash. When they found her, she was unconscious, slumped over the steering wheel with her foot still jammed on the gas pedal. Her list of injuries was huge broken bones, internal injuries, bruises, you name it. Basically, she was incredibly lucky to be alive, because by all rights, she should have died in that wreck. In this body cam footage, you can see her parents rushing to the hospital after they got the news. At the time, they had no idea what shape she was in or who she was with. When they found out, not only was she not alone in the car, but she was the only one who survived. Well, I'll let you see their reaction for yourself.
Progress in Alameda, car into a building. 2 are deceased in the vehicle. Daughter's driving.
Who died?
I don't know whether, but there's one that we don't know. His name's Jacob. Does anyone know Jacob?
Dom?
No, stop. Let him talk.
Guys, I know, we've been dealing with this. Your daughter's okay. She's talking to us. I talked to her, okay? Your daughter's alive, okay? Your daughter's alive. She was driving the vehicle, okay?
Who's that? Jacob and who?
I think it, what's the name you said?
Dom?
Might be.
Oh my God.
Stop.
What's his relation to you?
My boyfriend.
Okay, yeah, then Dom was in the car.
Stop. Oh my God. What? Are you kidding me?
Ma'am, it's,
What?
that's where we're at right now. Okay?
What did she say? What happened?
It's right now, it's an ongoing investigation. Speed is definitely a factor. So are drugs.
When she finally woke up in the hospital and was told Dominic and Davian didn't make it, witnesses said she was completely inconsolable. She was crying, screaming, totally broken by the news. At least in that moment, everyone believed Mackenzie, and they all thought this must have been a horrible, tragic accident. But let's just say in the weeks that followed, things didn't feel right. In fact, it was pretty obvious something was off. Because while most people would pull back from the spotlight, Mackenzie did the opposite. We know this because after Dominic and Davian died, her social media blew up. Her TikTok followers basically skyrocketed overnight while she was still in her hospital bed. And instead of being quiet and thinking about what happened, she leaned into the fame. From then on, she posted videos from the hospital showing her injuries, her wheelchair, even her meals, anything that would get her views. In one clip, she even gave a little tour of her hospital wing, smiling like it was some kind of vacation vlog and not a tragedy. I mean, talk about tone deaf. And it didn't stop there either, because once Mackenzie was let out of the hospital, she went to events, concerts, and even festivals, filming herself in her wheelchair the whole time. During all this, she was seen singing and laughing like nothing bad had ever happened. And then came the video that shocked everyone. This one.
I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
Like you can see, she's bragging to the camera with a caption that says, "I am just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die." Her behavior, her actions, her words, all of it was undeniably cruel by this point. 2 young men had died in her car, under her care because of her choices. And here she was joking about being indestructible. People didn't know whether to be disgusted, horrified, or both. To the outside world, this wasn't grief anymore. It was straight-up arrogance and a disturbing lack of remorse. The confusing part is, around the same time she was also posting tributes. Mackenzie wrote on Dominic's memorial page saying he was the last person who deserved this, that she missed his laugh and smile, and that he meant everything to her. She'd share photos of them together with loving captions, then go right back to her tone-deaf clout chasing. This creepy cycle of love bombing and shame went on and on. I mean, just look at this Halloween photo Mackenzie posted only 3 months after they were killed. She was dressed up like a corpse covered in fake blood, making ugly faces like she was auditioning for some cheap TikTok version of American Psycho. Seriously, this photo makes me so mad. And unfortunately, I've had to look at it way too many times. It's like she looked at grief, trauma, and public outrage and said, "You know what? I need a photo that proves my face is just as ugly as my personality." No surprise. Davian's family was completely outraged, and his sister was so disturbed by the post she told her family to call the police. And honestly, who could blame her? Just imagine scrolling through social media and seeing the girl responsible for your brother's death pulling a face like that. Whatever sympathy the public had for Mackenzie was starting to dry up. Don't get me wrong, some people tried to excuse it, especially her parents. They said she was just traumatized and dealing with it badly. But most people saw something much, much darker. Like she wanted to be the center of the story, no matter how horrific it was. Rumors around town got louder. And while the police kept investigating, Mackenzie kept feeding those worries. Soon enough, what everyone thought was a tragic accident turned into an active homicide investigation. For the first few weeks, police treated this like any other crash and nothing seemed suspicious at the start. Cops ran through the usual list: alcohol, weather, road conditions, tiredness, and everything came back clean. But things weren't adding up. For example, toxicology reports showed THC in her system, meaning she'd likely been smoking weed the night of the crash. And when police checked her bag, they got a surprise. They found stuff used for psychedelic mushrooms, like scales and packaging. When it came to the car itself, one early idea was that maybe it had broken down somehow, like the brakes failed. So detectives sent it to a forensic mechanic. When that report came back, well, let's just say it changed everything. The report said the car was in perfect working order, with no problems at all. The engine, the gas pedal, the brakes all worked exactly like they should. That left investigators with one big question. If it wasn't the car, then who was it? They started talking to friends and family, trying to get a clearer picture of Mackenzie and Dominic's relationship. And that's when they saw an alarming pattern. They saw the explosive fights, the threats, the social media stuff. All of a sudden, this didn't look like a tragic accident anymore. By now, people had started speaking up about Mackenzie and her worrying behavior. The warning signs had been seen by multiple people. And even Dominic's own mother pointed out a lot of problems in the relationship after her son was killed. In the officer's notes, she talked about how Mackenzie had become controlling and argumentative, and how both she and Dominic were ready to cut ties with her. Even her ex-boyfriend spoke out, telling cops he thought she was so messed up from drug use that she wasn't all there mentally. And honestly, after seeing dozens of videos of her shoving a bong in her mouth, yeah, I think she was completely fried. For the record, it is a shame I can't show any of these videos on YouTube because of the rules. But trust me, there are literally hundreds of videos of her doing drugs. That includes her hitting bongs, drinking lean, and smoking weed. Just a quick side note, but I gotta ask, where the hell were her parents this whole time? I really can't believe how neglectful those two must have been in the year or two before this tragedy. To give them a little credit, there are some messages between Mackenzie and her parents where they begged her not to drive, going all the way back to 2020. Her dad even pleaded with her, offering to pick her up anytime with no questions asked. So it seems like she was reckless and disobedient, and her parents didn't have any control over her and couldn't get it back either. Oh, and there are plenty of times where she's actually joking about her speeding tickets. Now, of course, we have to remember that warnings aren't proof, and detectives needed hard evidence. But thankfully, modern cars record everything. And Mackenzie's car had an event data recorder, which is basically the car's own little black box. And what it showed was nothing short of disgusting. The data recorded that in the last 5 seconds before the crash, Mackenzie's gas pedal was pressed 100% of the way down. And not only that, her brakes were never touched, not even once. It became clear she floored it and never let go. Of course, that sent all 3 of them straight into a wall. By the time the car hit the bricks, it was going nearly 100 miles an hour. And remember, investigators even found one of Mackenzie's fuzzy slippers wedged under the pedal. The murders of Dominic and Davian were right there in the numbers. That discovery ended any idea this could have been an accident. The only conclusion was that Mackenzie didn't lose control of the car, she drove it that way in cold blood. The security camera footage told its own story too. At 5:34 a.m., her car is seen making a normal right turn at an intersection near the business park. She stops, uses her turn signal, and turns like everything's fine. But just 60 seconds later, another camera catches that same car flying down the empty street. As detectives dug deeper, a motive started to come out. By now, Dominic's family had said he was thinking about ending the relationship, but was understandably scared to do it. With that info, police started to wonder, Is it possible Mackenzie decided if she couldn't have Dominic, nobody could? Detectives also realized that just 3 days before the crash, Mackenzie's phone placed her at the exact spot of the crash. And there was no reason for her to be in a business park. So why was she? Like we know, toxicology reports confirmed she was high on marijuana that morning, and police also found psilocybin mushrooms and a digital scale in her purse. So my own question is, why wasn't she investigated more at this point? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine, but personally, I'm putting it down to good old-fashioned white girl privilege. When investigators finally got around to looking through her phone and social media, what they found was sickening. There were dozens of videos of her driving like a maniac, swerving, speeding, even filming herself smoking while behind the wheel. Seriously, this wasn't new behavior. All of it was just from a clout-chasing TikTok psychopath. By November 2022, detectives were finally ready to move. That's when they went to her house, knocked on the door, and arrested her. And thankfully we have this body cam footage to show you. Honestly, this footage is absolutely surreal. And as the cops put the handcuffs on her, Mackenzie acted exactly how you'd expect someone like her to act. Because in that moment, she asked them to be careful not to break her expensive bracelet.
I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2, okay? Nobody's gonna ask you any questions. Nobody's gonna bother you. Can I have your key, please?
Could you please be careful taking this one off so it doesn't break the bracelet, please?
You got it. You got it.
So Mackenzie, here is some fashion advice for you. I think that bracelet is a little too flimsy for those wrists. You should try something thicker, like handcuffs. And I gotta say, they go really nice with an orange jumpsuit. As Mackenzie is put in the back of the police car, she closes her eyes, lies down, and cries a little. Maybe for the first time in her life, she realized that actions have consequences. Moving on to the legal part of this case, Mackenzie's trial officially started in the summer of 2023. By then, the whole community was watching. What had started as a tragic accident was now a courtroom drama, one that felt almost like a movie. I mean, we've got young love, obsession, aggression, TikTok, and a devastating end. Knowing she probably didn't have much of a chance with a jury, Mackenzie's defense team made a bold choice and waived a jury trial. Instead, her fate was in the hands of a county judge who would decide both her verdict and her sentence. No surprise, the prosecution didn't waste any time laying out their case. They argued that what happened that night was no accident. It was straight-up murder. They painted Mackenzie as a young woman who couldn't stand the thought of losing the man she loved. Someone who decided if their relationship was ending, it would end for everyone. And unfortunately for her, all the evidence backed this up. A forensic expert explained that the car's black box data proved Mackenzie never touched the brakes and instead kept her foot on the gas all the way to impact. In fact, it looked like her foot was jammed on the pedal until the very last millisecond, meaning she didn't even flinch at the end. Investigators also testified about the security footage, the lack of any mechanical failure, and the history of volatile fights between Mackenzie and Dominic. Friends and family backed up the tension between them. A family friend, Chris Martin, remembered when Mackenzie said she'd wreck him and his car. The defense team naturally tried to fight this story. They argued there was no motive to hurt Davian. They tried to tell the judge that Mackenzie must have had some kind of medical episode, suggesting maybe she fainted or had a seizure. Mackenzie also claimed she couldn't remember a single thing about the crash and that she woke up in the hospital with no memory of what happened. But there was no medical evidence to support any of that. And as the prosecutor pointed out, a seizure wouldn't cause her foot to slam on the gas pedal for several seconds straight. Mackenzie's trial lasted just over 2 weeks. When it was time for the judge to give the verdict, the courtroom went completely quiet. But no surprise, on August 14, 2023, she was found guilty on all 12 counts, which included 2 counts of murder. The judge even called Mackenzie hell on wheels, a phrase that'll probably stick with her forever. I think she just couldn't believe she'd actually have to face the consequences of what she'd done. Just 1 week later, she faced her sentencing. Family members of the victims stood in court and spoke through tears, all asking for the harshest sentence possible. Davian's sister was no different. She said her family's pain would never go away because of what Mackenzie did, and that her actions had destroyed their whole world. Meanwhile, Christine Russo, Dominic's mother, spoke directly to Mackenzie. Her voice broke several times, clearly struggling with the disbelief of the whole situation. And here's what she said, right from her own mouth.
This was not a car accident. The evidence and science proved that Mackenzie Shirilla murdered my son, Dominic, as well as Davion. No one can imagine the pain of losing a child unless they have lost one themselves. The pain is forevermore. Time does not heal this wound. Mackenzie, going to prison because you did this. Be thankful that you're still alive and have a future, whatever that may be. Dom and Davion were robbed of their futures, their hopes, and their dreams. Mackenzie showed no mercy on Dominic, nor did she on Davion. Only God at this time can have mercy on her soul. Thank you.
Mackenzie even spoke herself, but instead of taking full responsibility, she told them she hoped one day they'd see she was innocent. Sure, Mackenzie, keep believing that.
I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. I'm done. Thank you.
When it was all over, Judge Russo sentenced Mackenzie to 2 concurrent life sentences, one for each young life lost. She was sentenced to life behind bars, without the possibility of parole for 15 years. Now, disappointingly, because these life sentences run at the same time, it means Mackenzie could be eligible for release as early as 2037, which I think is way too soon. I mean, think about it, she'll only be in her early 30s then. Meanwhile, her 2 victims are gone forever. I find the next detail pretty interesting. The judge also permanently took away her driver's license, which means she'll never legally be allowed to drive again. I mean, imagine getting out of prison and being seen as reformed in the eyes of the law, but still not allowed to drive. She better hope all cars are self-driving taxis by the time she gets out. Even still, 15 years feels like way too little. As one family member rightly said, the victims don't get to come back in 15 years. They never get a second chance. After her sentencing, Mackenzie's defense team filed multiple appeals. But thankfully, so far the courts have kept her conviction in place, both in 2024 and again in 2025, so Mackenzie remains at the Ohio Reformatory for Women, where she'll likely spend at least the next couple of decades locked up. Her parents still believe she's innocent. By the way, because of course, how could their princess do something so evil? To be honest, I think that's probably half the reason Mackenzie was even in this situation to begin with, because it doesn't sound like she ever learned to take responsibility. In this interview, her parents talk about how they believe she doesn't deserve to be in prison for homicide, all while wearing these silly Free Mackenzie wristbands. Their delusion is honestly so clear, I feel like I don't even need to say anything. I can just let them do the talking.
Show me one piece of evidence, one, that says she did this on purpose. Show it to me. Here it is. That's it. Then she's right where she belongs, and she's guilty of it. But there isn't any. There's no evidence what was going on in that car other than the information they gleaned from the black box information.
They don't know. There's information they didn't see. There's information they didn't have. There's information we didn't see or have.
Should she be in prison for murder?
No, absolutely not.
Should she be in prison for aggravated vehicular homicide?
I don't know
I don't know about the aggravated part, because I don't think you can still say why was going on the car. Should she have been charged with reckless vehicular homicide, 2 counts? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not if it was medical.
The thing is, when you step back from the names and the people and just look at the hard facts, you see a tragedy that was bound to happen. It wasn't just that this driver had recorded herself driving dangerously many times before that night. On the day of the crash, she was high on marijuana, had been partying all night, had shown scary signs of aggression and possessiveness, and was running on little to no sleep. Honestly, she was in no state to be driving that night, let alone being responsible for 2 other people. And what's most heartbreaking about all of this is the immaturity of it. This happened because Mackenzie was angry, impulsive, emotionally stunted, self-entitled, reckless, and just plain dumb. And instead of calming down, she decided to weaponize not just her emotions, but her car too. That kind of emotional blindness is what turned an argument into a double homicide. The real tragedy here is the deaths of Dominic and Davion. And honestly, I don't really have the words to describe how awful this must be for both of their families. Both of those guys were young with their whole lives ahead of them. We should really value life for everything it is and everything it's worth. And I think that's all I really want to say today, folks. It's probably a good place to stop. What it sounds like to me is that Mackenzie never learned how to handle her emotions, And unfortunately, it grew to a point where 2 lives were lost because of it. But what do you think? Because this is a pretty complicated story. I guess what I'm most curious about is, do you think her life sentences should have been run one after the other instead of at the same time? Because personally, I don't think 15 years is enough. As always, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I'll see you again real soon. Thank you and goodbye.